Hi everyone, my name is Sherri, and I am powerless over alcohol, drugs, and codependency, and today I choose recovery. I am a grateful believer, and my sobriety date is June 25th, 2008. And I am also in recovery for ODE. I call that overdoes everything. Let's start with prayer. Lord, thank you for being in this place tonight. This is truly your story, and I am only your messenger. More of you and less of me. In Jesus' name, amen. I was born and raised in Hampton, Virginia, with my mom, dad, and older brother. I had a very normal childhood growing up. Don't all 6-year-olds fix their father's cocktails? And don't all dads carry a bottle of booze and a gun under the seat of the vehicle? That was normal for me. I remember my mom warning my brother and me as we were growing up, be careful concerning alcohol. There are problems on your dad's side of the family. So my dad took no responsibility as a husband, and he was an absentee father. He became addicted to the lifestyle that kept him away. And he enjoyed the trophy family when it was convenient for him. No strings attached. My mom, she was the glue that held us together. She didn't approve of my dad's behavior, but she accepted it. Back in the 60s and 70s, her thought was the family should stay together no matter what. So I didn't realize it at the time, but the seeds of codependency were planted in me already. I was already accepting unacceptable behavior. And I've discovered that my childhood was full of isms and character defects long before I put any substances into my body. Whenever my dad came home, I resented him for trying to be the disciplinarian. He filled us with fear, and he had a look in his eyes that shook me to the core. I knew I was never daddy's little girl, so I learned to play the victim. And I also learned to wear a mask, which became my new normal. Everything was always fine. My first drunk was when I was 12 years old. And I woke up and I was 36 years old. It was as if life passed me by as I stood still. I always looked older. When I was 14, I was getting into after-hours clubs, bars, and buying booze for my big brother and his friends was huge. I was working at my aunt's restaurant at that age, and got the taste of fast money. I had my first alcohol-related car accident at age 17, and my first DUI at age 18. I graduated high school, but I had no desire to further my education. I continued in the restaurant and bar business because money meant power. My alcoholism progressed over the years, and I was a daily blackout drinker, not remembering the damage I did to cars, to myself. I was also wetting the bed on a daily basis, so I had to stop bringing men home with me because I loved my booze more than any man. By the mid-1990s, I had a total of 4 DUIs. At this point, I was a true Jekyll and Hyde, with very unpredictable and explosive anger, especially if anyone interrupted my agenda. And I discovered that people are afraid of crazy. Despite my unpredictable behavior, I rescued a baby kitten that was being abused, and I named him Tiff. I never had a cat before or even liked cats, but he was different. He was loving, he's smart. Oh, he was perfect. He was my boy. I had a great job on Marco Island, and they were a little suspicious of my behavior and offered me the EAP program, the Employee Assistance Program, but I denied having an alcohol problem. And soon after that, I was fired, and I became unemployable. I got with the wrong guy, and soon I was into cocaine and smoking crack. I call that different level, different devil. Within a year, I was raped, robbed, shot at, and overdosed with a needle in my arm. My first felony was for aiding an escape. I let the guy out of a police car, and he got away, but I was arrested. They don't like that too much. I jumped bond and took off with him, and we were both on the run with warrants and bounty hunters after us. My mom didn't know if I was dead or alive. When alcohol and drugs are involved in a relationship, every kind of abuse becomes normal. I was sitting in a dark bedroom on a deflated air mattress, and I had no God in my life, but I just reached out to a God I didn't know, and I said, "Help me or I'm gonna die." The next day, the guy and I went out to commit a crime, and we were both pulled over and arrested, and I was rescued. I was calm and at peace, not knowing what I was facing, because I knew someone or something was watching out for me out there, keeping me from dying. I found out much later, knowing I was safe, my mom took my picture off of her desk and opened the drawer and put it face down and shut the drawer. I was in recovery for 2 years before she brought the picture back out. After being released, I did not go back into the bar business, but I was working in a local department store. And after 1 month, they did an extensive background check. The manager said I was a liability to their company, and I was fired. This was a horrible experience in sobriety. Being escorted out the front door. I had money in my pocket and tears running down my face, but I made it home safe. And I called a local treatment center and spoke to a counselor. "I just got fired. I don't want to use. What do I do?" Well, through her coaching, the next day I was signed up for a course at Edison College called Fresh Start for Women. It was a program for women over 35 re-entering society due to setbacks. So this was the best choice I ever made, which led me to sign up for college. And then I became a substance abuse counselor at the same treatment center I had reached out to. I also wanted to give people hope. Also, some of my women clients were able to experience the Fresh Start program for themselves. If I had not been fired, I would have never gone back to school. And that's just one of the many blessings in disguise. I started going to church and changed the music I was listening to. Some of my favorite lyrics are, "Your world's not falling apart, it's falling into place." My old music was a trigger, like Judas Priest, "Breaking the law, breaking the law." I became a member of Grace Church in April of 2000, and I also joined the team to start CR, which kicked off in January of 2001. We still have some of the original team members, Bill, Robin, Tanya. As a counselor, I was on fire with a unique approach. I was known as the counselor who cared. I introduced the clients to service work, feeding the homeless in Centennial Park, and I also brought them and their families to CR. Pete and Shirley are still very active in our program. I invested too much emotion into the clients, wanting them to get sober more than they did. I became a workaholic. I stopped going to meetings, stopped calling my sponsor, stopped working the steps, and I didn't see what was coming. I came home from a day retreat and found my cat Tiff dead. Very unexpected, and it ripped my heart out. And I did not share this pain with anyone. This is where I relapsed in my head. 1 week after graduating with my 3rd degree, I relapsed back into full-blown addiction. And this relapse was so intense because it picked up exactly where I left off. There is no starting over. I started living a double life, and the lies began. I was even convinced that I could achieve my master's degree. And I did my residency in Dallas, Texas, but I couldn't keep up. Shortly after that, I dropped out, and I was fired from the best job I ever had. I cashed in my 401k and actually tithed 10% to the church. What crackhead does this? I couldn't get it that God cannot be bribed, and he is not going to bless my mess. Even knowing where recovery was, where you guys are, I could not see any light at the end of that tunnel. So I started planning my suicide. I was going to go to my mom's house, ask her to use her bathroom, get her gun out of her bedroom, go home, and end it all. I guess God had other plans because my car wouldn't start. Death wanted me, but mercy said no, not yet. All thoughts of suicide disappeared, and it only cost $8 to fix my car. I came clean with my sponsor, and she really tried to help me, but I was still in that pit of despair, not ready to quit. So I resorted to some horrible crimes and became ruthless. Again, God was waiting patiently for me to cry out to him. God used my brother as a vessel to bring it all to an end, not exactly what I wanted. He brought the police to where I was living, and I was arrested and confessed to all the crimes I had committed. I had been in the worst bondage of addiction for 2 years. I just thank God I didn't take anyone down with me. In court, the judge was taking forever to make his decision. And I finally just dropped my shoulders and surrendered, and I said, Lord, where do you want me? And it was at that moment he made his decision. 90 months DOC and 60 months of probation to follow. I quickly did the math, and I realized I was going to prison for 7.5 years. My guiding Bible verse has always been Jeremiah 29:11 through 13. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. In those days when you pray, I will listen if you search for me with all your heart. I was determined to stay sober in prison because I could have gotten anything for a price. I vowed not to be involved in anything if the word sneak was associated. I never got a tattoo or a girlfriend, so I was the minority. And I had no fear because God had a hedge of protection around me. I focused on Joel 2:25. I will restore the years the locusts ate. So God saved my life and set me free by sending me to prison. It's as if he picked me up and dusted me off and said, let's put you over here for a little while and see how you do. I knew I would be back better than ever. I ended up serving 5 years and 8 months for good behavior. I was so fearful coming home, coming back to Grace, CR, AA, but everyone welcomed me back with open arms. If I had allowed fear to keep me away, it would have ruled in every area of my life. When I went skydiving, I had a talk with God. I said, if you're calling me home, I'm okay with that, but I don't want to experience any fear. And I didn't, and I had the time of my life. And that gave me courage. I gained courage to face any situation. I completed 5 years of probation, and I asked one of my many POs, what's the percentage of success? Their response was slim to none. A few months later, after completing all my obligations, I received a check in the mail for over $300 from the clerk of courts. I had paid them too much. When does that happen? And I know if I had not been living right and doing right, none of this would have happened. If you're new to recovery, everything in our lives is being destroyed, and we have an enemy that's cheering us on. I had to stop believing the lies. My disease trying to convince me that next time will be different. I'll control it next time. No one will find out. I'll only do one, fill in the blank. That's a lie because I've never done one of anything. My enemy is in my mind, and I have a quick forgetter. I forget all the pain and hurt I've caused, and I forget all the brick walls I hit, and then say, let's do that again. You know, it's insane. Pride says, I got this. I don't need your help. Humility says, I can't do this alone. Will you please help me? In desperation, I cried out to a God I didn't know. Then I made the decision to be willing to change my life. And now I desire to know him more. I am so in love with Jesus. He is my visible image of my invisible God. We're focusing on step 2 for the month of February. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. When I stopped kicking and screaming, looking for excuses and flaws in the program, and stopped blaming everyone else, I returned to sanity and realized Jesus is my only solution. Then I was able to start enjoying this life-saving program. When we inventory our motives, the thought behind our actions, the source of the problems are gone. No more power over us. When we work on our emotional sobriety, I call that soul improvement. And I've also discovered gratitude is a habit. When I'm thankful and positive, accepting things I cannot control becomes easier. What I do differently today is staying active in my recovery. The 5 essentials that are necessary are a moment-by-moment decision. Jesus, he is my audience of one, and I trust him because he had a hand on my life long before I ever acknowledged him. I was so concerned about being a convicted felon and what I would do for employment. He has placed jobs in my lap that require integrity, honesty when no one's watching. All of my employers know all about my past, and they trust me with their most treasured possessions. No human power could have ever achieved this. I have a sponsor who has a sponsor, and I also sponsor. My sponsor is old school AA. She's always asking, what step are you on? What'd you do for your recovery today? You know, she tells me what I need to hear, and she also still kicks me in the butt when I whine. Women in recovery are my safety net. The 12 steps can be applied to every aspect of my life. These are learning opportunities that help me deal with traffic, my job, illness, people in public, family members, and on and on. And the beauty of the steps is I no longer have to live in chaos and drama, and I am no longer the 10-item or less police in the grocery store. Meetings hold me accountable. I'm very active in my home group, and we're very service oriented. I can count on a phone call if I miss my meeting to see if I'm okay. Along with CR, I attend other secular meetings. I've been involved in a Bible step study for over a year, and I also co-facilitate the Women's FAM study. I am involved in service on many levels, including district. My home group is very service-oriented. We just completed a year-long commitment, taking meetings into the Salvation Army. I am on the intergroup 12-step call list, and I give women rides to meetings. And I also seek the speakers for our weekly AA meeting. And my goal is to remain anonymous. That's my goal when giving back, because I can't keep it unless I give it away. My favorite way of giving back is paying for the car behind me through the toll, and then I speed off as fast as possible because it doesn't count if I take credit. And the years I've done this, there's only been one car to catch up to me. It was an 80-year-old man who probably did 80 to catch up to me, just to let me know I paid for the person behind me. And who would have thought I would ever want to hang around Lee County Jail for 3 hours every month on a Saturday night? I love our jail ministry, and I can't think of any other place I'd rather be. When I have to drive through a not so desirable neighborhood, or if I'm watching TV eating ice cream and I get a fleeting thought, the quickest and best tool I use is, thank you, Lord. Thank you, I no longer do that. And the thought disappears. It's amazing. A thought only lasts 15 seconds if it is smashed immediately. If I start romancing the idea, then the thought turns into a desire, and then into a craving, and then into an obsession, and then I will act on it. It's that easy. 2017, 18, and part of 2019 were very challenging for me. I gained 50 pounds without trying. I survived thyroid cancer, and I'm still losing my hair and my eyebrows. So remind me if I leave the house without my eyebrows. It's okay not to be okay. I was in the ER and hospital many, many times for dehydration. Tested negative to everything, but I never stopped praising and thanking God for healing, because I knew He would. I was really leery when someone suggested I recommended a holistic doctor. I didn't know if someone was going to run around me shaking a tambourine or not, but I had nothing to lose. Within 1 week, I was 100% better from an illness I had endured for over 2 years. I think Jesus was shaking the tambourine. God has brought me to a place today in my life where He has allowed me to be a spectacle of weakness. And this is so I can testify to you and others what God can and will do through human weakness. I'm no longer that scared little girl. And the best part is, I'm becoming the woman my dog thinks I am. I want to end with the truth of Revelation 12:11. We have overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Thank you for allowing me to share my story.